Hello, everybody. The conference that we are going to have today is going to deal about job interviews. We are going to see how to have an interview and telephone interview and how to deal with most of the questions that we are going to face during this interview. Some of the questions that we are going to answer are how to succeed in your phone interviews, which are called phone screens, because after this phone call, the interviewers, the employers usually discard people or accept people to have another interview, a next face-to-face interview. How to use video conferencing and how to behave and dress in a personal interview. Good interviewers usually schedule the interview in advance, so they are going to send you an email in order to have to set the time to have this interview. The goal of a phone interview is an invitation to come to the employer's company for an in-person interview. Phone interviews are typically called phone screens because they search for people and they screen candidates, and after that they decide who is going to have that face-to-face interview or who is not going to have it. These interviews usually last between 10 and 30 minutes. So when we have one of these phone calls, we need to address the most important information at the beginning of our interview when we are asked. Only 3 to 6 candidates will be invited to participate in the next round of interviews, so it's very important that we do it well. How to do when an unexpected call happens, when someone calls us and we didn't expect that phone call. We have 2 options. We can accept the call and answer, or ask to reschedule because you are unable to talk and at that moment, and to tell them, please, would you mind having this interview in another moment, because right now I am at workplace and I cannot be dealing with this interview. Or so that's the best situation, that's the best option. The best approach is to ask for a better time when you are in a quiet, safe environment, have your notes in front of you, and are mentally prepared for the interview. Choose some time within the next few hours or next day, if possible, to have the phone call. If they say to call that the call will last for 10 minutes, set aside 20 minutes just in case. And if they say that it will last for 15 minutes, set aside 30, a little bit longer. If you currently have a job, do not take this call in your workplace because it can be dangerous for you. So be very careful with this sort of situations. What can you do before the interview? The goal is to make a great impression, so be prepared. Later you can decide whether or not you really want this job, so be prepared to make this great impression. So your voicemail, the answering machine of your phone, should be prepared as well. When you can't answer the phone, be sure that a voicemail message is available, confirming that the number belongs to you, and clearly stating your name in a professional way, saying your name. Do not do, please. Hi, I'm out partying right now. Leave a message, and if it is interesting enough, I might call back. Do something like the following. You've reached Bill Jones' phone. I'm unable to take your call right now. Please leave your message, leave your name, phone number, and the reason for your call. I'll call you back as soon as I can. When you are able to speak with the interviewer, be professional. Have your calendar ready to schedule the interview. Don't answer in an unprofessional way. Finally, I was wondering if I could ever hear from you. Don't do that. And answer in a better way. For instance, thank you for calling. I'm very interested in learning more about this job. Choose a time and quiet place where you won't be interrupted by a coworker or family member, barking dog, or other loud noises. Set aside time for this phone call and be prepared to do it. Collect information about the interviewer, for instance, his name, his job title, his position in the company. All of that information is important for you to do properly that interview. You may ask him questions as well. Know as much as you can about the employer and the opportunity before the interview, just as you would for an in-person interview. For instance, check the job position and make notes of where you meet or exceed the requirements. For instance, read the information that there is about that job to check whether you have the requirements or if you don't. Review the organization's website. That's also very important because you can get quite a lot of information from the company and which is the products, the services that they provide. Look for a LinkedIn company profile to see what information they post, as well as other job openings they might have. This gives you information about the company, their interests, their lines of production. So as much as you need to get as much information as you can. Prepare the most commonly questions asked by this employer, as well as the salary ranges and employee reviews. And prepare questions to ask if the opportunity arises or you need to ask some of these questions. Paint visual pictures with your words by telling stories that demonstrate results you achieved or contributed to with answers that express the who, what, when, where, and how and why. Those answers will make you stand out if you give that information with that reasoning, with that information about who, what, when. It's very important for the employer to know all of those reasons that you have to take on board on this new position. And which are the most common questions that the employers usually make? For instance, answering questions about you. Tell me about yourself. What do you want? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? Why do you want this job? How do people describe you? What is your greatest weakness? This is important because if you are going to answer this question, don't say your weakness. Say something that looks like a weakness but can be considered something very good. For instance, my friends always tell me that I am always on sharp. I always arrive at the time. That's not a weakness. That's a very good thing for a company. Well, some other questions. What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest accomplishment or achievement? And why do you want to leave your current job? Don't say anything bad about your current job. So say answers such as because I would like to move, because my family want to move to another city, or to another neighborhood, because my children are studying in this school and I would like to have my job decide where my children are studying, things like that. What other questions can arise during this conversation? What is your current salary? What are your salary expectations? You need to know what is what you expect to earn in this new company. Answering questions about them. Why do you want to work here? And you need to know. You need to have read about that company to know the products, the services that they have, and relate that information to your expectations and how would you would like to improve working within that company. Some more questions. What do you know about us? How do you find this job? And another one's related to special career situations. Why did you quit your last job? This is important. Don't mention that they fired you. So be careful. You may say that you were interested in improving yourself, and so you began studying a master or another career, another great undergraduate program, whatever. But say something that demonstrates that you are interested in improving yourself. Why were you fired? So you need to say some reasons, but maybe that there was an ERTE, like now with this coronavirus situation that many people have ERTEs. So that's not a problematic situation. That's a problematic situation for the company, but not for you. You were a good employee. How do you explain your gap in employment? Because sometimes there are some people who are not working for a period of 1 year, 2 years, and they want to know why you weren't employed, because that can be problematic. So you may say that you have been studying or you have been working abroad, or you can say that some things like that. Okay, so be careful and prepare answers for all of these questions because they are going to ask them. During the interview, what did you do? The first thing is to smile all the time. Try to smile. Listen very carefully to the other person. Listen always. As in every business discussion, listening to the other side is as important as what you say. And in fact, what you say will be more effective if you are listening carefully. Avoid making assumptions about what is being said. Ask for a clarification if necessary, so that your response will be most appropriate. Completely focus your attention on the interviewer. Answer the interviewer's questions carefully and ask your own. Don't take other calls or texts and avoid all other distractions. Don't do any other thing at the same time. Just focus on this phone call. Smile while on the phone. This is very important because it shows your disposition to get this job. You will find that you sound more upbeat, more you feel you sound better and engaged when you smile. Your smiles will be heard by the interviewer, making for a positive impression. This is where your attitude will really show. To help you remember to smile, place a mirror by the phone where it will be easy for you to see yourself in it. Then, during the call, make a point of looking into it and smiling while you are talking. So this is if you the employer get a better impression of you, because the smile is reflected on your voice. So that's also a good point to bear in mind during these interviews. The 8th point is to focus on your language and voice. You have only the power of your voice during a phone call. Speak clearly, stay optimistic, upbeat, and use positive language. Smiling will help. Trust me. Don't trust anyone. So don't say bad words about anyone from your previous job or your recent employer. So don't trust anyone, not even the former boss who was such a jerk. Try to take cues from the interviewer. Does he or she speak slowly and softly or fast and loud? And modulate your own tone and word choice to make a positive impression. So try to realize whether the other person is nervous, is quiet, just for listening to his voice. A mirror, as I've said before, can help because it can make you be conscious that you should smile all the time. So a mirror will help in staying positive. But you must remember that the words you choose, your language, and the motivation you put forward, the tone, modulation, enthusiasm, will help determine your outcome. As the interview begins, ask for the name and job title of the person who is interviewing you, and write it down in your notes. And then at the end of the interview, ask or confirm the person's email address, so you can send an email to send him your thank you for having had this interview with you. If possible, take notes during and immediately after the call. Focus on giving good answers rather than writing copious notes. So write very short notes to remember things, but focus on giving good answers. Note the date and time of the call, and if it was scheduled, whether they were on time or not. It also tells you about how many people maybe they are interviewing. During the call, write down any commitments you make for after the call. For instance, sending a sample of your work or following up with an answer that you didn't answer during the call. Be very careful not to put a current or former employer's confidential information at risk. Don't say anything like that. And note anything about you that seems particularly important to them, because that's a good point. And indicated by the interviewer, asking you several follow-on questions about that topic. So anything that they ask you about, that's an important aspect for them. So take note, because you need to organize better your information for your face-to-face interview. If you have the opportunity to enlarge your information, or if they ask you how you can demonstrate something that you are saying, you could have prepared a portfolio or a LinkedIn profile where you can show some of your achievements, successes, etc. These are some examples of portfolios. For instance, imagine that the interviewer asks you to describe a challenge you have faced. Suggest they visit your web portfolio or LinkedIn profile and have them click on your project highlights page. There, the interviewer will see what you have made public, perhaps an outline of key projects and terrific graphs that expresses your results. And that's very important. And nowadays, most of the people usually their own portfolios online, so they can show them whenever they are needed. This enables the interviewer to see your value while you talk about it. What can you do at the end of the interview? If the interviewer is bringing the call to an end without discussing the next steps, pick up. Express your enthusiasm for moving forward, saying something like this. Thank you for your time today. I've enjoyed speaking with you, learning more about this opportunity, and I would be very happy to discuss more about it in person. Ask if email is the best method for staying in touch and sending a thank you message. If an in-person interview is not scheduled at the end of the call, find out when and how you can follow up with the employer. And what can you do after the interview? Write a thank you letter and email it as soon as you can after the interview. Don't just say thank you. Explain something else. Make a point on reiterating your strengths and value for the position. So this is the reason why it is so important that you take notes on the questions that they have asked you, or in some important point that you think that is important for the company. How to dress when you go to an interview. So here we have some of the photographs of people in their own companies. So the way you are going to be dressed, it depends on the company where you are going to work and the position you are applying for. For instance, these first photographs belongs to La Caixa, which is a bank. So observe the people who are working here, the way they are dressed. They are using a suit. This is a stock market, or it looks a stock market. Most of the people are wearing suits as well and ties. So the best way to decide how to get dressed is to go to the company and look at the people from outside, the people who are coming out from the company. So that's important as well. Google is famous for being a company who is very creative, and people are usually not so formally dressed. So if you are going to go to a company like this, it could be important to go dressed, but in a casual way, with a jacket, maybe a jacket, a nice trouser, but in a casual way. And the fourth photograph looks like an architecture office. So you need to look at the people, the way they are dressed. So that gives you an idea of the company, the style of the company. So you need to adapt to that style of the company if you want to get that job. Dress in a manner that is professionally appropriate to the position for which you are applying. If you want to become the boss of the company, try to look like a boss. You should wear a suit to interviews. Your suit should be comfortable and fit you well, so that you look and act your best. Avoid loud colors and flashy ties. Clothing should be neat, clean, and pressed. And here we have some example. For instance, don't wear earrings. Use a silk tie, but it depends on the company and it depends on the position that you want to get. Shirt should be a little bit longer than the arm sleeves, a little bit. You can use a double pieces suit, a conservative suit. Don't use black shoes as well. And what are the things that you shouldn't do? For instance, shave your face or trim it, the beard. Avoid distracting colors. Don't use roll-up pants and use socks. So these are some of the details that you should bear in mind. So if you want to ask me any question, my email address is abueno@ucjc.edu and my name is Ángeles Bueno. So thank you very much for everything. Bye bye.